All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. BetSperts Golf here for our 2024 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I'm excited about this one, signature event. Joined here, as always, by my friend, PGA Splits 101, Ron Kloss. At the top, Ron, give you the floor a little bit. We've come on, celebrated Lions victories. We celebrated Michigan national championships. So you're in it a little bit today, obviously, after a tough NFC championship game. How are we feeling this morning?
Yeah, that's what makes football such a great sport. I mean, it's the momentum can change so dramatically. Just one or two plays go differently, and yeah, that whole thing, probably turns out a much different way. So, I love Dan Campbell. I don't understand the criticism. I can understand the criticism from the outside, but I mean, he's done that all year. That's his personality. That's how aggressive this team has been. So, just little things. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really good to build on for the future. Brad Holmes has done a great job building that team. And so, yeah, I think there's try to look at it from an optimistic point of view and good future ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, you stay true to who you are. That's what got them there. They didn't lose necessarily because of those decisions. You can't turn it over. You got to catch balls, convert, a couple Josh Reynolds drops and stuff like that. So, yeah, tough one. Like I was saying, you'll be thinking about it for a couple of months here, unfortunately. But hey, they did things the right way. We joked like they got dragged for that draft class last year. I told you I liked it. I thought maybe they just drafted the guys out of order, but I mean, they got four ballers, and they were all massive, parts of what happened in this team this year. So yeah, good time to turn the page, though. If we're going to turn the page and put a smile back on your face, let's go to, Monterey Peninsula. Let's get a signature event. Let's get all the big boys in the field that are left, that are currently remaining on the PGA Tour to play here at Pebble. We are small fields was 80 is the cap. Who knows what that's going to happen now, but we're still, we lost Terrell Hatton this morning, but who knows what else is going on here. But again, we're losing also, one of the three tracks. We're getting an extra Pebble, and we're getting this, with all the guys here. So I'm really, really excited about this one. No football to compete with here. You want to talk to us about this event, some of the things that changed, and, touch on the courses here at the top.
So yeah, like you said, it's, we had 156 kind of two-person teams, cut down to 82-person groups here. And so, yeah, the 54-hole cut also has been removed. And so, love that or hate that. I personally don't. But yeah, we have a no-cut event here. And Spyglass Hill is the other course being played along with Pebble Beach. So Spyglass for one round. And then all players will play Pebble Beach on the weekend. So Monterey Peninsula completely gone. Another change is the Pro-Am is only featuring kind of select professional athletes this year. Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Larry Fitzgerald, that whole group. But you don't have any of the Hollywood actors, entertainers. None of those guys are playing this year. And so I think that's part of the whole kind of draw, along with the purse signature event, $20 million. We got $3.6 million to the winner. So pretty much everybody, like you said, who's left is here. And yeah, it's just tough right now because, you combine the first four events of this year, you have nothing but long shots winning. And then
wild.
You come here, we've already had one of these at the Century, and Chris Kirk wins. And so you have to think, one of these top guys are going to pull it out this week. But I mean, who can predict this stuff anymore? And so, yeah, it's hard. But yeah, both courses are kind of similar. They're both on the Pacific coast. The weather can obviously change very quickly here. If you remember last year, we had a Monday finish. We had winds gusting over 30 miles an hour pretty much every day. We had wet conditions. And so just looking at the early forecast, I mean, from what I see right now, it's like rain every single day. Low 50s. We got winds gusting over 20, 25 on a couple of days. So it looks like it could be another kind of hit and miss tournament here as far as the weather goes. And yeah, just kind of both courses are really short. They're both under 7,100 yards. Obviously, Pebble Beach has the smallest greens on tour, only 3,500 square feet on average. And the agronomy is pretty much the same on both courses. You have a blend of POA and ryegrass in the fairways and the rough, and then you have obviously pure West Coast POA greens. So yeah, and Spyglass Hill is a really tough course. I don't think it gets as much credit for how good of a course that is. I think it was the 5th toughest course on tour last year, or actually, if you extend it over the last 5 years. So yeah, I think looks like the rough is a little longer this year at Pebble Beach. It's usually it's only 2 inches, but on the golf course GCSA, it has it at 2 to 3 inches. So it looks like they're trying to make it a little tougher this year from that viewpoint. So it'll be interesting to see, yeah, what happens.
Yeah, oftentimes we had this obviously a couple weeks ago with the pro-am element too, is you'll see it a little bit more playable, so that the 6-hour rounds aren't 6.5-hour rounds. Pin placements are a little bit more friendly, but we've even seen historically, even with some of the lesser amateurs in here, like scores can be low, and part of that is the weather, and part of that is just like the nature of what this course can be. I'm so glad that we have a signature event here, because it kind of felt like a bastardized event, with it being like, this is Pebble Beach, man. This has to be put on a pedestal. This is, in terms of like US golf, like this is an absolute gem. Let's incentivize the best in the world to come here. And I love that we have it in kind of an island, not competing with any playoff football or anything like that. It does get the showcase that it deserves. So I'm really excited for this one too. So yeah, and what's been going on in terms of like who's winning these tournaments has been absolutely insane so far this season. So like I said, very interested to see how it impacts and what happens here, how people go into the market here on a Monday morning, how that changes people's approaches. Is it like continue to go down the board deep? Is it, hey, as someone at the top of the board is inevitable? It makes it really, really interesting. And I think kind of the nature of this course in general does kind of bring in more of the bottom of the board, in the sense of like what typically wins here can be guys that can be, positional golf, not long, because of all, both courses are short. So that actually adds another element to it that I think is pretty interesting here. So before we get going here, I wanted to let you guys know, we're going to walk through some stuff here, walk through our rabbit hole. We're going to, look at some of the things that Ron thinks matters in terms of key statistics. And you could do that with our incredible tool we're really excited about, the rabbit hole over at BetSports Golf. You can go over to the site right now. This link is free, and check out the details here. Partner with our friends over at Vivid Picks. If you're not familiar with Vivid Picks, it's a DFS style pick'em site, like some of other ones that are out there that you're probably familiar with. Prize Picks, Underdog, things like that. This is backed by Vivid Seats, again, secondary ticket market company. I love their games. They have some really unique stuff for different sports as well. We've been told golf is coming to Vivid this week, full out. So we'll wait and see what happens there. We'll have a free article on the site as well, giving some of our suggested plays for the week. You can go ahead and download Vivid Picks. Use our promo code BetSportsGolf. Click on any of the links here in this article on the site. You can get free access to everything on our site. You want all of Ron's data, charts, tools. You want all the picks. You want to get into Discord. You want access to the rabbit hole, where you can do all of your own research. For simply depositing and playing $5 on Vivid, you can get an entire year of BetSports Golf for free. They will match your first deposit up to $250. So if this is a thing that you like to do, you like to play on these sites, they're going to first deposit match instantly. You deposit $250, you got $500 in your account. Pretty sweet deal, pretty aggressive, better than other promos that are out there as well. But you simply want to essentially take the loophole to get access to what we're doing at BetSports Golf for free. $5 deposit and play. If you are not in the Vivid state, and you can see here, they're all listed. I believe in like 28 states or so. Unfortunately, can't give you a $5 deal for BetSports Golf. You can DM us though on BetSports Golf on Twitter, or Ron and I separately. We'll give you the best promo code that we could possibly get and be very aggressive. This is obviously an affiliate deal. They help make up for some of the cost. So we can't give you a $5 deal. But again, we can be pretty aggressive and hopefully save you some money. And again, cheaper than other databases that are out there, and have stats that you will see if you have not heard or seen already that you cannot find anywhere else. If you're following Ron on Twitter, you've probably already seen that. And we're pretty stoked about it, and continue to make new additions and have some new stuff coming out hopefully this week as well. Some other tools to kind of build off of this exciting rabbit hole with what we have going on now. So it's been a labor of love for Ron, and he's been instrumental in getting it done for us and continuing to push out cool stuff. So let's go through it, Ron. Let's take a look here. We got the screen up here, and you can see, if you've seen this for the first time, folks, you can basically split this data up in any possible way, put any type of condition filtering option, again, conditions and filters that you cannot do anywhere else. But again, what are we looking for, Ron, in terms of what matters here? What are you weighing heavily? Is there any like stat in particular you want to kind of, go down the rabbit hole in and open up and take a look at? We could build kind of a soft model here too to get started.
So Pebble Beach, as I'm sure most know, is pretty much a second shot course if there ever was one. So players are going to be provided with a really challenging test, being patient, a lot of wedges. POA putting definitely matters this week as well. These greens are really tough. They're typically in the, top 10 toughest on tour to putt on. And yeah, especially if some of these guys who played at Torrey Pines last week, the emphasis is going to shift from distance, long iron play, like you said, to more short iron, precision, equally difficult greens to last week. And yeah, I think another thing to keep in mind here, it has been wet and cold in California, recently especially. So I think we can expect kind of typical of what it was last year with kind of softer greens. And, even with the wind and the weather last year, Justin Rose still got to 18 under, when he won. So I think we could probably see something similar to that, maybe a little tougher with the rough being a little longer. But yeah, for the rabbit hole, this is a really good week to dig in because we have pretty much everything that this event, typifies this year. So, first off, on that main page there, if you go to course type, if you want to look at coastal courses, this is something that nobody else has. Where you can click on that little coastal check, and if you want to see, as far as wind obviously is going to be a factor on most of these coastal courses that we have on tour. So that will give you a pretty good idea of who plays best, in those types of conditions they're going to see this week. And yeah, and then when you go to the filter by condition menu, like there's so many different parts of what players are going to face this week. For example, course length. These are two of the shortest courses on tour. So we have not only short, but you can, if you just want to look at the top 10 shortest courses on tour, you click on that very short, tab there and kind of get even a deeper picture of those courses that kind of fit the length here. Obviously, we have a very strong field this week with this being a signature event. Yeah. So if you want to look at the field strength, that's another angle you could look at. And then if you go down, event type, obviously we have the no-cut data in here. So if you want to look at, there are players, Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas, who typically play better in no-cut events as far as above their baseline. So if you want to take a look and see even how some of these lower players on the board, how have they fared in the past on no-cut events? You can look at that. And then, you got the West Coast, we're still in the West Coast season here, kind of earlier in the year. And definitely players, there's a group of them who tend to perform better early in the season here on these West Coast events. Could be guys who grew up in California, used to playing on POA greens. And then, keep going down the list here. Small field we've got, if you want to look at just, small field bunkers. Pebble Beach has the most bunkers on tour. So bunker play is going to be very important this week. So if you wanted to dig in and look at, just look at courses with a high amount of bunkers, you could kind of go that route as well. And it just goes on. And that's why I call it the rabbit hole, because you just keep going down and down. And, you're building these models and you want to, take a look at all these different angles and look at them separately. And, that's what I typically do, just to kind of, build that model out. So it's just really cool how you can, go through all these and yeah, sometimes you can get to the point where, more data is just too much.
Yeah,
but it's just cool. It's just cool to look at and just, kind of, you take your big picture view and then you dig in deeper and you kind of, get a little, try to get a little closer to all these little angles that you can try to uncover edges wherever you can.
No, I think that's a great point, Ron, because you can definitely overfit by basically applying too many conditions and messing around with stuff too much. But yeah, you can, you start to get into like, all right, I want to look at no cut events, West Coast, high bunkering. You're going to get such a small sample. You have to go back so many years, and all of a sudden that data set becomes pretty noisy and not something that I think is actionable. But independently, if you want to add some of these things here and there, just and look a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to add it to a model or anything like that, but it allows you to have visibility to something maybe you couldn't see typically.
Yeah, and what I love to do with this, and just speaking on what you said there, is yeah, if you can't combine all those together because it's going to leave you with no courses. But what I do is I'll do one at a time, and because we have this, the option to download these to CSV files,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, you could, you could, if you like to build your own model on the side, like I do at times, is you just kind of use each one individually and you weigh it individually. We also obviously have a modeling tool on here where you can create your own mixed condition model, and you can do it that way as well. So yeah, just however you feel comfortable building your model, we have all the data you could ever want.
Yep. Could be a good week for less than driver with some of the forced layups that we have here. And, that's an option that I think is really cool and really unique. You mentioned the small greens. So being able to, suss out scrambling on short grass and rough, talked about sand saves, probably not needing 3-putt avoidance or anything like that, but you can see all the different things if you continue to scroll down in terms of filtering by conditions. Just again, really, really, really cool and super useful. Ron mentioned downloading by CSV, which is available. You can see right here in the middle of the screen. This little link allows you to do that as well. We're defaulting here to the rankings where they rank in the fields. And again, you can change the time frame, the number of rounds, and all those things. You can just simply look at average in terms of what we're looking at here from a strokes gain standpoint. You can look at total strokes gains. And I continue to love this rounds gained feature just in terms of percent of round gains. I think gives you a better understanding of consistency, how good are the good guys in terms of how often are they actually gaining. And then we also have this new floor ceiling tool, which I think is absolutely outstanding as well. If you want to look at any of the strokes gain buckets in particular, we talk about spike putting weeks. It's often more so of I would say a DFS thing, Ron, than maybe in the betting side. But when we hear, this guy tee to green is fantastic, we just occasionally need to get that spiked putting week. Well, what does that look like? How frequently does it happen? And what does the ceiling of that spiked putting week actually look like? You can go ahead and look at how often does a player gain 1 or more shots on approach, all the way up to 5. How frequently are you doing it? Again, you can go by percent of rounds gained as well with all of the strokes gain tools or stats, which I think is, again, absolutely awesome to get an actual number and visibility to what that term, which is so frequently used, actually looks like.
And here's something even better than that is so this week, obviously they're on Poa greens, and these greens, like we said, are tiny. And so you could take this a whole step further. So if you go on the filter by conditions, you could select small greens, and you could, what I'm going to do, and I haven't done this yet, I need to go do this is, and you could collect small greens and then go back to the filter and simply look at approach. And so, okay, who is gaining the most strokes as far as a spike performance on small greens? And, I'm going to assume Morikawa is probably going to be up there pretty high. And
you can see here, I got a little red dot that tells me I got a condition going. And also it tells me right here, it says greens small. We are looking at the last year, just, looking at, let's pull 50 rounds. I have also the ability to sample, make sure I cut out some of the small sample noise too, putting a minimum round in here that you want. Again, you can see I had 16. This is where it says here. You can just drop down whatever you like, just to take out some of the real small sample stuff. Let's see, just say.
And then when you go to rounds and you click on the percentage, and you can actually see, the rounds gained, you can narrow down to an exact percentage of, if you want to see, all the way up to 5. Obviously Scotty's going to be up there for 5 because best approach player in the world. But it just gives you a view of, they're facing this specific condition this week. And, it just gives you a great idea of, the guys, who present upside on these smaller greens.
Look at Luke List. You need a spiked approach. Luke List is your guy here. Leading pretty significantly. Again, and you can see here, this tells you the number of rounds. Again, that's a pretty small sample. It tells you actually, rounds played and shot length rounds. It gives you different visibility to that too. So again, that's just one of the many, many, many things that you can do here. Lots of different unique stats as well. When you actually go to the, the view section here, You can break it down. We already showed you obviously strokes gained and then the floor ceiling. Off the tee, there's unique things that you can do. We have approach, and then you also can get into specific buckets in terms of proximity ranges from the fairway, proximity ranges from the rough, around the green. We already showed we have around the green with rough, around the green with short grass. These are unique things as well. We get into the miscellaneous metrics a little bit. Last week, we're looking at like, club speed, ball speed, because we're looking for, guys that could hack it out of that rough a little bit at the Farmers. I think that mattered a little bit too. I'm loving this AM PM stuff in terms of, maybe first rounds, early round bets and stuff like that, getting a sense of maybe if there's some massive splits and some advantages to take advantage with that. So that stuff is also really, really cool. How about we go off the tee, Ron? Because I want to get a sense of what you think we need to do here. Because again, we have stats that you can't do this with anywhere else in terms of building model. We have total driving, good drives gained here, good drive percentage, distance from the edge of the fairway, which I always like when in terms of accuracy. Not necessarily what we need here, but what do you think in terms of driving stats? What do you think you're going to be kind of weighing more than others, and how do you want to approach off the tee here this week?
Yeah, so the players are facing numerous angles off the tee this week, and so they're going to be forced to use less than driver on a number of holes. And you combine this with the lack of length here at Pebble Beach. Shortest driving, average driving distance on tour, just a little bit over 270 yards. So yeah, longer hitters have a minimal advantage here, and you also have this thing where fairways are really wide. I can't remember the exact number, but among the top widest fairways on tour, the rough typically short, and so accuracy off the tee just doesn't mean as much this week. And then you throw in the fact players are clubbing down off the tee, and you do get a pretty high driving accuracy percentage. And you do have fairway bunkers that are littering the course. You have the impending ocean beyond the cliffs, but thanks to most of the players laying up, most of these dangerous areas are avoided, and so. With this being a clear second shot course, for me, this is a week where, pretty much the main stat I'm looking at off the tee is actually good drive percentage, which measures, how often a player lands their second shot on the green, no matter where their tee shot lands. And just, kind of what I'll do even is I'll look at good drive percentage on small greens, just to get an idea of, in the past, how players have performed here. And another thing we have, on that filter menu, when you go all the way down, is you can look at which courses are the toughest to gain strokes on approach. And Pebble Beach is pretty much in the top 10, 15 every year. And obviously because of the small greens, it's really tough gaining shots on approach here. And so, that's something I'll kind of, dig in and look a little deeper at is mostly good drive percentage for me, is the main one I'll be focusing on.
This is your good drive percentage, last 50 rounds, minimum 16 rounds played into small greens. And you can see here, Aubert was a pain. I am every year just blind betting Aubert at Farmers. I think that is a perfect fit for him. If he did not miss those consecutive, just little tap-ins, he's very much in the mix there. Come the weekend, instead of just kind of flirting with the top 10. You see here again a lot of the Aubert numbers even early in his career, opening at basically 28 to the market this morning, is popping nicely, and long and straight plays pretty well. Tom Kim, Lucas Glover, again we're still pulling Glover data from that hot run last year, but again this makes sense. Brandon Todd, who's performed well the last couple of years, Morikawa makes a ton of sense here. Cantley has obviously played well. So this is the thing too. And, looking at some of the guys that have performed well historically here, they've also haven't performed against the top of the board because they aren't always here. So this is kind of a unique week in terms of looking at course history as well. Russell Henley, Brian Harmon, some familiar names and some names that make a ton of sense. You also want to look at just looking at course history, if that's your thing. Not something that put a ton of time in personally, but Ron does some good stuff on the site with that as well, giving you all that information. You can simply go here to course, pull your time frame out to make sure you're getting the last handful of years, and you can just look at who's performed well. Again, kind of a noisy data set because we are a 3-course rotation. You're looking at just Pebble in the last couple of years. That's just been 2 rounds. So you're not going to get, even going back last 5 years, you're not going to get a lot of rounds telling you a great story on Pebble specifically. So I think some of the things Ron's suggesting around comp courses, looking at small greens, looking at less than driver, and expanding outside of what's just happened at Pebble, probably the way to go this week. Don't pigeonhole yourself into Pebble specific splits, because that is a very, very small and noisy data set. All right, Ron, just, touching at the top before we go, and again, people can go over to Bet Sports Golf and get all the content that we're doing this week. You want all the picks and all the plays. You want to get access to the rabbit hole. This is the way to go. Again, the Vivid deal is the way to do it. Do you have interest at the top of the board? Rory's here. Rory out there at like 8. Scotty is right around 8 and change. Vic between 10 and 12 to open. Xander, we're still on the West Coast. So we're getting Xander between 11 and 16 this morning. Jordan has come here historically because of his AT&T ties. So we do have some, in terms of the top of the board guys, Jordan at least is teeing it up here annually. You're getting Jordan around 18 to 20. Cantley there, Homa there as well, and Morikawa. Those guys are all kind of, right around 20 or so. Do you have a lean at the top of the board this morning? You don't have to give us a pick, but you think of, hey, what's going on here of late with guys basically, 100 and plus, 500 and plus winning? Do you have any interest or any appetite for the top of the board?
I think Victor Hovland makes a lot of sense. I know we've already seen rumors this morning, but yeah, it's just so hard at these numbers though. Like it's, you see Victor at 1,200 right now, 12 to 1. I think you have some definite course history guys here with Spieth, but I mean, can you really bet Spieth at 20? I mean, it's just so hard to pull that trigger. Jason Day, he's at 50 right now. He hasn't looked good the past couple weeks. He typically plays very well here and on the West Coast. So he's interesting. Again, we have a small field, only 80 players. So, I think 50 is a pretty fair number for him. But yeah, you're almost tempted to, what's happened the last few weeks is just, you're almost tempted to keep looking down the board and seeing, what value you can really find here. And, Nick Taylor's another guy who plays very well here. I know he opened at 125. He's down to right around 90, 100 right now. So he's someone I like. Yeah, you got even a guy like Wyndham Clark, who's, I think he's still in the top 20 in the world. And, obviously he hasn't played his best recently either, but he's sitting there at 90. So, really interesting. I know he's not the best course fit here perhaps, but yeah, this is probably a week where I'm going to take a little bit more time and just kind of wait for things to settle and kind of maybe dig a little deeper into, the numbers, and see what happens by, tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yep. Still waiting for some books to post, which is also an interesting thing too. I have, someone that I thought before last week that I was definitely going to be in on here. I'm okay with the opening number towards the top of the board ish. I want to see what happens. Fired off of a couple of longer plays this morning in our Discord for subscribers. I think those are pretty bad numbers in terms of where even some of the other market is. But yeah, just kind of wait and see this morning. I'm trying to, we want to be aggressive on a Monday morning. I think you and I have found that to be beneficial in getting some really good closing line value. Now that just matters less in golf outright betting than maybe anywhere else. But again, still feel good about having, say, an 80 on someone when all of a sudden on a Tuesday morning that number is 50, 55 elsewhere. I feel like that's a cheaper ticket and feel better about that. So yeah, people need to go over to the site and take advantage. Again, if you are not in a Vivid state and you can't take the advantage of the promo, shoot us a DM on Twitter. We'll be able to help you out. So we appreciate that. Thank you for joining us this morning. Make sure if you are watching on YouTube, hit us with a subscribe. We appreciate it. We'll have some more content here this week. We will have betting show on Tuesday. Ron with the DFS show with Byron, the Model Maniac, on Wednesday. And then all of Ron's written content on the site as well. Absolutely can't miss. And over to the site now. You want the best preview in the business? I mean, I'm biased. He's here, but I say when he's not here, what Ron does in terms of written work and course preview, bar none, best in the site or best in the industry. So definitely check it out. So for Ron, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.